All right. Are you going to do yours first? Judge Dredd?
You don't seem to have any notes out.
For yours?
Yeah.
I don't need notes for your game, man.
No, I'm saying, if we were going to do yours, where are your notes?
Oh, they're over there.
Exactly.
Right. It's going to be one of those days.
Buyer's Remorse.
Welcome to Buyer's Remorse. I'm Darren.
I'm Justin.
And on Buyer's Remorse, we make each other play a game for 60 minutes and check out if it was worth the money or if it was a massive, big, fat fail. You've played a game that I love, so this will be an interesting day.
I'm so surprised that you love this game.
Why? It's Judge Dredd.
All right, so the game is called Judge Dredd, Dredd vs. Death. It is from developer and publisher Rebellion, whose logo looks very much like the logo for the Warriors.
Yeah.
Very positive overall, but only 725 reviews. Probably because this comes from, at least according to Steam, February of 2005.
I played this. I have this on CD, so yeah, maybe that sounds about right.
Interesting. Okay, $8.50 at base. I know I didn't pay that. It goes on big sale often.
Yeah, I think I picked up for $1.
That would be my guess as well. It is a game with multiple story modes. You've got single, co-op, story, arcade, battle. I don't know what they all do. I only did story. It's all I'm interested in. It is Judge Dredd. I didn't get to read as much 2000 AD growing up as you did. In fact, I didn't get to read any of it growing up. It wasn't until I met my friend from England when I was around college age that he introduced me to 2000 AD because his friend sent some over.
It's weird because I had it sent over. I lived in the Middle East, and some guy, one of my dad's friends, he was like, "Oh, this is a comic book. You'll like this." I was 8 years old at the time, reading Judge Dredd and all the...
I feel like that must have been the case, though.
Yeah.
Who else was reading it? It seemed like it was all young kids or teenagers that were reading this.
Yeah.
I love Judge Dredd. It was a very interesting comic. Is it still going?
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, man.
Is 2000 AD still going?
Yeah.
Did not realize that. My best bit of Dredd would probably be when I would read the big compilations. They would put out hardback editions that I occasionally was able to find in a library. The best Dredd story I think that I read was this story about having to carry the vaccine across some wasteland to get to another megacity. And of course, it had to be transported, I think, by ground because otherwise they would have just flown there.
Yeah, exactly. Just helicopter.
But in it is one of the best sections ever where it was the fast food wars that oddly get referenced in Demolition Man, but not in Stallone's Judge Dredd.
Right.
But it's the Burger King people versus the McDonald's people. It's hilarious. Just the sheer ridiculousness of it. The way the army is dressed as clowns.
For like McDonald's, like Ronald McDonald's.
I love Judge Dredd, though it's not the best as far as character development or even really story development. It's a lot of action, ridiculousness, catchphrases. It's part of why I think when Pat Mills and Tony Skinner went from writing things like Judge Dredd to trying to write Marvel comics, it just didn't hold up the same. And at the time when I was reading the Marvel comics and they would enter any book, they would try to change it, put their own spin on it, completely destroy any sort of continuity of what had happened before. And I used to hate them with an utter passion. And I still kind of do for that. But I understand a bit more where it's coming from. They were a serialized short bits. Dredd was never its full book. It was always these little 5 pages or 6 pages each month or each. Was it a month?
It was a weekly, I think, at the start.
Oh my goodness. Well, that would explain it even more then. You're getting just a bit each week. That's not my style overall. I prefer longer stories, more continuity. But boy, Dredd is a lot of fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of good characters in there. And this game has the main kind of bad guys that have never shown up in any of the movies that they've made. I don't think so.
All 2 of them.
Oh, yeah. All 2 of them, yeah. Either of the movies they've made. But yeah, no, I like Dredd. But that's the funny thing, though. Like, when I used to read 2000 AD with a passion, and Dredd was all right. He was one of my favourites, but he was never my actual favourite out of the whole lot. Because you've got things
You mean in this story or just in,
in the comic? In the
Okay.
comic. So in the 2000 AD, I always loved like Tharg's Future Shocks, or I liked like the Strontium Dogs, or who was it? The ABC Warriors. There was just so many of them, but there's always one. There's one at the back. I can't remember the name. It was like some barbarian guy. It was like a Conan the Barbarian story. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely.
Oh, I can't remember what it was called, but that was. I never used to read that. I just always skipped that one. Like nah, because they tried. That was exactly. They tried a little bit of everything, kind of like throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks, you know. And yeah, some of them were bad, but I do remember they did like a crossover, because I was never really that much into comics like you were. So I've got really limited knowledge of this, but I recall when I was at school, there was like a Marvel version of, or like maybe a DC version of Judge Dredd, where they had beefed him up and made him all muscular, and like he was more of a Stallone style Dredd, and everybody in the UK was like, that's rubbish, that's terrible. We all hated it because it's like, you've taken him and you've made him into this big beefy Superman character. But I remember there was a big problem in the 90s because of this, like among the diehard Dredd fans. Pretty funny for me though, because it's just a comic, guys, settle down. But no, I like this game a lot, but I didn't like it. Yeah, the other modes are terrible. You're lucky you didn't bother trying them. The battle mode is dead. The PvP, there's like, you'll be the only person in the server. But yeah, campaign wise,
I'm very mixed. Like
it is old.
Yeah, but it's 2005.
I feel like it's older than that. It looks older than that.
Exactly. If it is older than that, I would be a bit more forgiving. As it is, I'm basing it on 2005, and this does not look like a 2005 game. Yeah. But this looks like what you would get for Judge Dredd in 2005.
It probably is, man. Probably is. Because they wouldn't exactly be throwing heaps of money at a project like this, would they?
Sadly, no.
They did for Rogue Trooper. The Rogue Trooper game is pretty good. Rogue Trooper was just another... Did you ever read the Rogue Trooper strip in 2080? The green guy, he's got a helmet, a gun, and a backpack that all talk to him. They're all like microchipped AIs of like dead soldiers, basically. So they've been implanted into his equipment.
No, I don't.
It's pretty cool. Next on Buyer's Remorse.
Oh, is that game exists and you want
it does exist, yeah.
All right. I think just the look of it, they have the overall idea of the style of art, I think. But boy, the way they're animated and just the way their proportions are look really weird in this format. It is very Judge Dredd style from 2000 AD, but it doesn't look quite right in the game. And maybe that's just me. But everybody seems to be very, how do I put this? I mean, foot heavy. They all have huge boots.
Yeah.
And their torsos seem to be very tiny.
Yeah.
In a way that I guess maybe that's the way, because when I first looked at it, I went, oh yeah, this looks like Judge Dredd. And then the more I walked around, the more I went, that just looks weird. Something about it doesn't quite translate over.
Yeah, that was always the style though. Like Judge Dredd was always had huge boots, and then he was just a big skinny lanky guy. No meat on him. He was just really wiry. That was their style, I think, for a lot of the characters were these weirdly drawn, oddly proportioned things. Apart from like the big fat guys that are on like the unicycles.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into the game. I had to start off with a training mode. I'm very disappointed the controller doesn't work.
2005, maybe? I don't know. Oh, it should have been all over controllers back then.
Yes, and for a game like this, it just feels like a controller would have worked, for me at least, so much better. Because the way they've mapped out the keys is really awkward.
Yeah, there's definitely some weird mapping going on there because you've got like an arrest button, you've got a threaten button.
Yes,
you've got the buttons to change the rounds.
Yes,
I don't remember the other buttons though. Crouch, I guess. Jump.
Okay, well let's get into it when I get into the training. So start off the story. You have to do training, which is this tutorial. I love Dredd's voice in the game, and he just randomly will say stuff, which is pretty good and very Dredd-like and funny. Oh, they brought me in for this. You walk in, some woman tells you that you better get into training, but where else would I go? The whole game, at least thus far, is pretty much on rails. There's one door to go into.
Yeah, or if there's another door, it's locked.
Which is exactly what happened when you walk into the room. You walk into the room, and both doors become locked.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy who's talking to you, who's explaining your UI, basically. Oh, this is your shield meter. You need to make sure that that doesn't drop to 0. If it does, you need to get out of the line of fire and let it replenish. These are where your health packs will be. This is your health. If you get to 0, you die. There was something else. Oh, there's a legal meter, a law meter that judges how well you are a judge.
Yeah, judging the judge.
Did you ever drop that to 0?
Probably. I played this a long time ago. Actually, I did play it recently-ish, like maybe a few years ago, but I don't remember.
Do you know what happens? If you drop to 0, do you have to start over again?
You might. Maybe you just like get pulled off the streets or something like that. I really don't remember.
This game is all about start over again.
Yeah, so maybe it is. I think if you just gun down civilians without arresting them, then maybe it's a game over type thing. I'm not sure.
I didn't get that far, though I was tempted. In this first room, I did a very Dredd-like thing, kind of. I didn't like the training, so I punched the guy in the face. That failed the mission.
Oh, yeah.
Had to start over. So then I had to hear all the UI again. And then, well, okay. Actually, here's the thing. The first time I walked in, it said, pick up your helmet. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not picking up my helmet. Dredd never takes off his helmet.
Yeah, you should always have it on. That's rule number 1, guys.
Yeah.
Fail.
Stallone. So I said, no, I'm not. So I punched him in the face.
Yep.
And then he knocked me out because I didn't know what I was doing. And also, the game is very unforgiving. It's a very one-hit kill kind of game.
Yeah.
This health, it seems like it's a bar of 1.
Yeah.
He punched me. I fell over. Guess what? Was wearing my helmet.
They lied.
So I had to do that whole part again without beating him up this time. Wait for the door to open. Then head out to what is, I hope, the worst part of the game, which is this tutorial about jumping and crouching.
Okay.
I need to ask you this before I get to the end part of this episode. Is jumping really important in this game?
Not really. I don't think so.
I ask because the hardest thing for me to do this whole hour that I played was jumping over the stupid first barrier.
Yeah, no, I don't think jumping, it's just a run and gun, man. It's just, that's all you do.
He only seemed to jump about 1 out of every 5 times I hit the space bar. You seem to have to do it the exact right distance from the bar. I would hit the button and the character would grunt as though he's jumping, but not actually jump. It was awful. It's like, if jumping is important in this game, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not playing anymore. Finally get over that. Meanwhile, trainer lady is just bossing me. Just jump over it. Just jump over it. Yeah, I know. It's the lamest tutorial of all time. Jump over this thing, crouch under the next thing, jump onto the next one, and then crouch onto the bar that's on top of that platform. It's not hard if the controls worked properly.
Yeah.
And yet, they were so worried that I wouldn't understand what to do, they had her explain it all the way through. And I'll tell you this as well, found a bug where that last hurdle, there's a way to jump off to the side because I did it. And when you do that, you can't jump back through, and you also can't jump over. So you have to restart.
The whole thing? Or do you start off at this point again?
This checkpoint is okay. However, the next one is not. The next one starts me back before this part again.
Oh, man. So you spent an hour just doing tutorials then, by the sounds of it.
No, but a good half hour probably trying to figure this out and get through, because the game never tells you what button to push. You have to keep going into the menu and the options and the controls to see what the buttons do.
Press the jump button. Yeah, well, what's the jump button? Yeah.
That one at least is the space bar.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Is. Yeah.
But the next part, where there's a simulated arrest, a robot that's just standing there, let's do a simulated arrest. Push the action button. Well, what's the action button? I thought mouse button. Punch him? No, fail. Start over. Yeah. And there's no automatic restart. You have to restart it. You have to go into the menu and restart
Click it again, yeah.
Otherwise, you're just standing there going, what do I do? Yeah. What do I do? So that restart takes me back to the stupid jump thing again. So multiple times of this I messed up the arrest and now I've got to go do this again because I don't know what buttons I'm doing or what I'm supposed to say. I found the threaten button, because that seemed to be a button that I would normally be pressing, but not action, which was F. F just feels a weird button to choose. You also have your mouse and keyboard, and then when we get into switching weapons, that I believe is using 1 and 2. That's just too much moving my hands around in a game where timing is really, really important, and you don't have a lot of leeway. And this is, again, why I'd like to have it on controller, just because if it was on a controller, they would have, I think, considered the mapping out just a little bit more, and wouldn't be so much moving around or spreading the keys out so much.
Right, yeah.
When you finish that one, you get to just show a character how to get to the elevator, I guess.
I think it's just to show that you can lead people places, I think.
Okay. Then down there is the gun range. So now you finally get to pick up the Dredd gun, full of it's every type of ammo. You've got your regular bullets, you've got your ricochet, your armor-piercing, explosive, heat-sinking. I think there's one other one I can't think of. So you go to do that and follow the blue triangle. That's the important thing. Follow the blue triangle. Shoot at this one. Now switch to your ricochet. Okay, which, by the way, I don't know what use the ricochet is.
Bouncing off walls.
Well, I get that point. But I was trying it at the target, and the only way I ever actually made it hit the target seemed to be to aim it straight ahead. What was the point?
I think if you get in an enclosed space, they're pretty useful. But you don't want to be in the same room, because you get injured by them as well.
Yeah, because when I shot it straight ahead, it bounced right back and hit me. That's useful, thanks.
Yeah.
I got stuck here at some point. I hit some bug and I couldn't move.
Okay.
I was stuck. There's a little mat in front of where you're firing, and I somehow got stuck on it, so I couldn't move. That was not fun, so I had to restart this section.
Go back to the jumping again?
Not that far. I think it started me over here, finally. But the voices are just telling you what to do, but again, never what button to push. Switch to your ricochet ammo. Well, how do I do that? I thought, it's going to be numbers, because switching things in your inventory is often through your numbers. But no, this one, and I will say this is probably a good idea, the scroll wheel on your mouse button.
Yeah.
That works, and it actually feels somewhat intuitive once you have that. You then get to pick up a shotgun and shoot that once. Then you get to pick up a rifle, which I guess has a sniper function, but I couldn't really get to zoom in. I don't know what button I was supposed to be pushing. I think I would like it, but if the opening level is an indicator of what the game is going to be like, you're never going to have a chance to use that.
Yeah, it's a useless weapon. Maybe a couple of moments.
You then get to do a fake hostage situation where you get to walk in and arrest the perpetrators or shoot them. You walk the hostage back out. It's all just very clunky and weird. Because you can take care of these kidnappers, but then after you get the hostage, more just seem to appear, and it just didn't seem to make any sense. What's going on here? But I think that that's going to be very indicative of what the game is, because of the first level. When I got out, and finally, there's a good cutscene, though the animation is a little off. It's a little weird. But I think they were just taking the game assets and animating those. Was Anderson in the comics?
Yep.
Okay. I thought maybe Anderson was something they created for Dredd.
No, she's a main character, yeah.
Okay. She looks very different than I would have imagined, but I knew her from the movie.
Right.
As far as the first level, I didn't know what I was doing most of the time. I was guessing. The game tells you that the chief or whatever wants you to arrest the protesters outside. I don't even know what they're protesting. You go out. They are pretty peaceful. So basically you just have to say, get on the ground. And they get on the ground, and then you arrest them for, I wrote it down here, 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years for holding a protest.
Yeah, man. 10 years in the cubes. That sounds about right. That's justice.
But he doesn't say that. I want him to say that.
What?
isocubes.
Oh, he does eventually.
Does he?
Yeah. Well,
He didn't say it in this one.
Oh,
and
really?
that's the thing I wanted to hear most because my friend and I used to joke about that all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
10 years, isocubes.
Yeah.
Which I'm not quite sure that I really understand what isocubes are based on this game.
Why?
Because, well, I'll get to the next one. So the next one was people vandalizing. They were tagging the walls. So for graffiti, some people were getting arrested for life. I guess in my mind, isocubes were always like the Demolition Man prison, where they were frozen for 10 years and then they would come out. But you can't go in for life in that kind of situation. So are they just isolated for 10 years?
I think it's like the Demolition Man thing. Yeah, it's just it's like a big filing cabinet of prisoners, basically.
It's so random, the amount of time people get. These taggers are getting life.
Yeah.
But later when I do a bank robbery situation, they were getting like 10 years.
Yeah.
And they're shooting at me. All around the world, ridiculous things. There's huge women, kind of morbidly obese, with wheels to hold up their stomach.
Yeah.
They're wearing these purple tracksuits, which on the back say, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, some store-bought assets.
You've got just the same 4 people walking around for the most part.
Yeah.
And then the vampires come. And they are so fast.
Yes.
If you ever get cornered at all, one hit, you're done. It was really, really tricky. This is what took me the rest of my hour, was to do this. The bank robbery was bad. I often would get my head shot off, or fire that the bank just happened to be on fire. If you get too close to it, you catch on fire.
Yes.
Everything will kill you. Everything will kill you quickly. It's very Dredd comic-like, but it's not really fun video game-like. I was just getting really frustrated by how easily I died. Did you play this on easy?
I just play everything on normal, so...
I was playing on normal. I'm hoping maybe if I start over in easy, it will be easier. This is just really hard and...
It's hard. It's unforgiving.
Not very much fun when it's a lot of, at least the way I was playing, backing up, trying to keep my distance because the vampires are rushing you all the time. And you can't see where you're going, so you can easily get hung up on a bit of environment.
Yeah.
I did get through this finally, and that was kind of the end of the hour, but I will say just beyond the hour, I watched the cutscene that talked about Death.
Mm-hmm.
And Death is a very cool sounding character. I like the idea of it. So I might play more, but boy, I didn't really enjoy getting killed over and over and over again in the opening level.
Yeah. Well, it's just a taste of things to come, really. Because, yeah, it's pretty hard. I finished this game. It's worth a shot to try and get through the rest of it. But, yeah, Judge Death is pretty awesome. You've got Death, and you've got the kind of other 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Do you know the story of them? Like, did you ever read them in the comics?
That one I didn't read. No.
So, Judge Death and his kind of henchmen they're judges from another parallel kind of dimension. And so they see life as a crime. And so the punishment for life is death. And that's basically their goal, is to wipe out all of humanity. That's where Judge Anderson comes in, because she's part of the Psi Division, and she can like kind of locate them, and she knows where they are and what they're doing. That's why the Psi Division exists, pretty much. And so, yeah, that's the game. You've got to go after the whole crew. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun for me. But, yeah, that first one, I died a lot. I remember first playing this, and I died a lot with these first, like, vampire monster things. And you got to rewatch that cutscene over and over again of them coming in. So did you make it through that? I think next, did you make it to the prison? Is that the next level?
I think that's the next level.
Yeah. Things, I'm not going to say they get easier, but they definitely get more interesting, I think.
I think the biggest disappointment in this game is just that it has such potential, and I feel like it's just not there. I don't think the money or time was put into it to make it the game that it could have been. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I've always appreciated Dredd a bit more than most audiences outside of the UK.
Right.
Dredd is a very UK thing. I just would have liked for it to be better. I would like to see another one that's a bit better as far as controls, as far as the animation even. I would like to think maybe because Dredd was very popular as a movie, that maybe that could happen in the future. But I wouldn't have said that after the Stallone version.
No, not at all.
I was a bit worried at first that this might be that.
There is a Stallone version. I've played, there's been a few Dredds, especially on like Commodore 64 and Spectrum, because they're from the UK, so there have been a couple of games, and there was one that was based off the Stallone one. And like, what was that, 1995? Something like that. And yeah, it was pretty bad. So when I got this one, I was over the moon because this was like unlike anything I'd ever seen before. And it had good graphics for me at the time. They haven't really aged well. 15 years down the line. But yeah, I was really happy because it's got that Dredd kind of satire, tongue-in-cheek kind of humour. They do that quite well. And they have, the characters are pretty true to the comic. But they don't have enough characters. It would have been nice to see like more characters in there. Just so we can get it straight, what kind of game is it then? What tags would you give this?
Well, FPS, definitely. Challenging, I think would be. The last one, Dredd.
Yeah, deserves his own tag.
That, or maybe I Am the Law. Would I just can't see what else would properly fit it. I mean, comic book adaptation would possibly work, but at its core, it is just an FPS game that's challenging, that has to do with Dredd. I mean, those are the three you have to give it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So who would you recommend this to, if anyone?
I think fans of the comic would appreciate it.
Yeah, that's me.
I think people who are more keyboard mouse oriented, definitely. I think people who play old school FPS, if they were into the original Doom games, this might be for them. I think it's a very hard sell to have somebody who's played Halo was their first FPS, or the more recent Dooms, like Doom 2016. Night and day between what that game is and what Judge Dredd versus Death is.
But that would be pretty cool to have a Doom 2016 style version of this game.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's what I want, and that's what I'm more hoping for. I would like to see that. I would like to see that much love put into something like Judge Dredd. I think it could work very well.
You heard it. Come on, Carl Urban. Get your act together.
I don't think Carl Urban is the...
He's got to make the sequel, and then we'll get the game.
Okay, so it's up to him to make the movie.
That's right. To generate the interest, and then we'll get the sequel. Yeah.
Okay.
So are you going to go back and finish it based on my love for this game, or have you had enough?
I'm not sure. I'll have to see how I'm feeling. I think what I would probably
Crank it down to easy, man, and just play for the story.
I'll crank it down to easy to see what the difference is. And I will also try one more level to see if I like the next level. Based on the first hour, if I didn't have somebody else to tell me, I think I would have pushed through one more, because I've only done the tutorial and the first level. I think that for a game like this, you don't really get to see the game until you get into the second, maybe third level. So I would keep trying it, but I think if I just kept dying over and over again, if it felt so unfair like the vampires do, they're just so fast, they one punch kill me, that is just not fun. I think without your recommendation and just seeing that, if that continues, I don't know that I would, even with your recommendation, I'm not sure that I definitely really want to. The internet exists. I can go look at the cutscenes if I want. I can watch some other fool play through it.
I'll stream it.
There you go. I will give it another try. I will play it a bit more, but I will not guarantee that I'll finish this game.
All right. Oh. Yeah, the whole point of the show. So, buyer's remorse or confirmation then, Justin?
It's a really tough one. Here's the thing. I think ultimately, I would say it's a confirmation. But this first hour, not being able to jump in the easiest tutorial of all time, being killed over and over and over again in what should be the easiest level of the game, that gameplay was not fun. And I did not enjoy it. I enjoyed the Dredd parts. I enjoyed the stuff that he was saying. I enjoy the overall look of the game because it does feel like they've tried to bring some of the comic to life, especially in the cutscenes. But the gameplay, I was told what to do, but not how to do it. A lot of it was just not intuitive. I think overall, I would lead towards confirmation. But this first hour, this was a remorse.
Remorse.
Ding. Interesting judgment. 10 years in the cubes.
I am the law.
I am the law.